This is why abortion is an issue for Christians. He goes on, he says, and from the man, from his fellow man, I will require a reckoning for the life of man. What God is saying here is I require you to keep each other accountable. And I require you to hold accountable anyone who takes a life. Why? Because God values life. You see, God's values are reflected in what he requires. Why does God value life so much? Well, I mean, we're his creation, but he created us in his image. And so every single life, every single person is created in the image of God, and their life is valuable. And God requires us to not take those lives. Let me just veer off just for a second here, because I think it's practical and timely for me to say this. This is why abortion is an issue for Christians. Okay? Because abortion is not a choice issue, it's a life issue. Now, I get, we all make choices all of the time, right? And we're all responsible for our choices. God says when you make a choice, you're accountable for the choice. Every choice has consequences. I get all of that, right? I can choose to lie. God says, thou shalt not bear false witness. Right? I can choose to steal. God says, thou shalt. You see, just because I can choose something doesn't make it okay. God values life. God values life so much that the first thing he requires of humanity is that we value it also. So if the child in the womb is a life, then that child is created in the image of God, and it is a violation of God's values and a violation of God's requirements if I take that life. Now, I know we could argue till we're blue in the face about where and when life begins and how we know if it's alive and all of that, and y'all know I'm not good at science, so this is just kind of me, just kind of a basic dude saying, here's what I think. It seems to me, if it has a heartbeat, if it has brain activity, if it feels pain, if it's self-aware, then it's alive. Because a rock doesn't do any of that. A clump of cells doesn't do any of that. A tumor doesn't do any of that. If it has brain activity, if it has a heartbeat, if it feels pain, if it's self-aware, then it's alive and it's made in the image of God, and we ought to value it and protect it. Okay? Because that's what God values and protects. God loves life. God values the life of the mother. God values the life of the father, and God values the life of the children. And this isn't something that's just in Genesis 9, right? This extends to the whole Bible, God's value on life. And so when we get to Micah 6:8, and we're talking about how much God values life and how much he values human life, we recognize that in his requirements of Micah 6:8, he's telling us this because he values us. The reason he says, what you want to do, what I require of you is to do justice. That's how we relate to each other. We do justice to each other and for each other and with each other because we are all made in the image of God. We love kindness or mercy because we are all made in the image of God. And so Micah 6:8 is a reflection of the heart of God, of the values of God, and his requirements reflect his values. So what is required of you? To do justice, to love kindness, to walk humbly with your God.